you will love these easy, delicious, homemade sourdough bagels. And in this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how you can make your own. To make the dough, I always love to weigh my ingredients, which is a lot more accurate than volume measurements. And I'm starting with some warm water that I am adding to the bowl of my stand mixer. Of course, you can always do this by hand and do a lot of kneading. And I am assuming that you have an active sourdough starter. If you don't, I have a recipe down below in the description box how you can make your own, really simple and easy to make. So we're starting with that. I like to put the lid back onto this jar where I keep my sourdough starter. This is the glass lid. I love keeping them in weck jars. Then I'm adding some sea salt. That one likes to clump up a little bit. So we're going to shake that in and weigh that out because every salt has a different weight to volume ratio, and it's always good to weigh it out. Now I'm adding my flour. A lot of people will tell you that you do need bread flour. I find that this all-purpose flour is just perfect. It's actually center milling, but it's the Kirkland brand, and I find it makes perfect bagels. And then I'm adding that to my stand mixer for mixing. I have found that the bagels really benefit from a lot of kneading, and I am just going to show you really quickly how the dough transforms here, starting it, and I'm using the dough hook just to mix up all the ingredients. And I'll do this for about 7 to 10 minutes, and I really want this dough ball to be very uniform and not sticking to the sides as it is doing right here. So this is a very low speed, and now I'm just going to turn that up to the next highest speed to give that a little bit more oomph, so to speak, and I'll do that for another 5 minutes. And again, this is a really nice, uniform, smooth dough ball. And I think this is ready. You can see how nicely it has transformed. I'm going to pull this off of my stand mixer and take the dough hook out. It's a little sticky, as you can see, which is perfect. You don't want it too dry and certainly not sticky at all. Here it is. It's a little below the camera. Sorry about that. And I'm going to add a damp kitchen towel to it and let it sit in a warm place for about 30 minutes. Now I'm going to transfer it to my clean work surface. And I like to knead it and form it into a ball because then I find it is even less sticky to the surface here and to my hands, makes dividing it into those pieces that we need to make the bagel shapes a little easier. And with a bench scraper, I like this metal one. I am dividing it in 10 equal parts. If you are really accurate, you can weigh those pieces out to about 130 grams each, but I think it adds a little bit to the look and feel of homemade if they're not exactly 100% the same. So I'm just eyeballing. Depending on how good you are at that, you might want to just do the same. Now I'm just simply rolling them into dough balls, and I like to create a little surface tension and tucking the dough under, as you can see, and then pinching it together. This helps a little bit with the shaping. I have 10 dough balls that are pretty much all the same size here, and I'm gonna let them sit on my counter for another 30 minutes, and to keep them from drying out, I'm covering them with a kitchen towel. When I'm ready to shape the bagels, I have a floured baking sheet over there. I simply roll them into logs, and you're going to have to experiment a little bit with how long they are depending on your sizes, but you want to be able to create a bagel shape by pressing the ends together, and you want that whole. Some people like to take the dough ball and simply use their hands to create a hole in the middle and then pull them apart. I have found that they hold the bagel shape a little bit better this way versus poking a hole in the middle. But you know, you can experiment with it and find out what works best for you. You want to press the ends together and then roll them a little bit so that they actually stay together while they're fermenting and rising and proofing and not come apart. And this is why I like to roll them again over their sides here to press the ends in. I'm going to repeat that until I have 10 bagels here on my baking sheet. You can also use parchment paper, or I have silicone mats here. And then I'm going to let these sit at room temperature for about 2 to 5 hours. You want a little bit of rise. Remember, they're sourdough. They're not going to rise a whole lot. And then I'll put them in the refrigerator overnight or for about 8 to 12 hours for additional proofing time. In a large pot, I have some water boiling already. And to that, I'm going to add baking soda. This helps a little bit with the chewiness of the crust and gives it a little bit better taste. And again, the recipe is in the description box for you, so you can print it at home and have all the steps, but it's always nice to see how it's actually done live. And then I'm adding brown sugar. This also adds a little bit of sweetness and color and shine to the crust of the bagels. You can also use honey or another sweetener. And here over back there are my toppings. I love them just plain. I find them a little bit more versatile, but I know my family loves the various toppings, especially the bagel seasonings. And even though I've floured my silicone mats here, the bagels ended up sticking quite a bit to the mat, which causes me to have a little bit of an issue to pull them off. But as you will see, they really kept their shape together. See, this one really didn't want to come off, but I just went ahead and did that anyways. Depending on the size of your pot, you may fit 3 or 4 bagels in there, and you want to keep them in the bath for about 40 seconds. If they're coming up to the surface and they have a surface exposed, you want to do 40 seconds each side so that both sides get an equal amount of the bath. Back there, I'm sprinkling the toppings on the wet bagels, which makes them stick to it. And I have the dried onions, I have poppy seeds, I have pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, and the all bagel seasoning. You can always add your other ingredients before you shape the bagels, such as cinnamon and raisin, or blueberries, or you can find other toppings that you like. I find that these ones are simply very universal. With a slotted spoon, I'm removing the bagels from the bagel bath, and I want to make sure that I don't have a lot of excess water there coming with me. And I'm putting them again on the baking sheets here. I have silicone mats, and you can use parchment paper or simply grease your baking sheet with some oil. These are my bagel seasonings that I like, the toppings. And you can also use your hand. You can either dunk them in there and press the toppings on, or sprinkle the toppings on the top right before baking. I have already turned my oven to 400 degrees and letting it preheat. When I'm done with this, I can simply put the bagels in right away. And actually, I like 2 plain bagels because, as I said, I like the plain bagels just as much as the other ones. I'm adding both trays at the same time, which may or not be a good idea depending on your oven. For this one, it is okay. Typically, they bake a little bit better if you keep them in there by themselves, 1 tray at a time. And since mine wasn't ideal for that, I rotate the trays around and decide then that I wanted the one that's on the bottom to be on top because they weren't browning equally, which is, if you use the regular bake function, you don't necessarily get even heat all across your oven, depending on your oven. After 20 to 25 minutes, or when they're golden brown, I'll remove them from the oven. Here they are. They turned out perfect. And the hardest part when everything smells so good that comes out of your oven is always waiting to let them cool down. I'm transferring them to a wire rack so they can cool down without any moisture underneath. I hope you feel inspired to make them. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. How was it?
Good.
Is it just good?
Very good.